Commander Taven Riker had never intended to become the most wanted fugitive in the Galactic Consortium. The aging soldier had simply been in the wrong place at the right time, a distinction that now had three separate species calling for his execution. The Meridian battle armor gleamed beneath the artificial lights of his stolen craft, its obsidian plates absorbing and reflecting the illumination in equal measure. The suit had belonged to High Warmaster Cluvex, the most feared Meridian warrior in recorded history, responsible for the subjugation of 17 systems and the extinction of 3 sentient species. Now it sat before Riker like a malevolent deity awaiting worship. "Approaching Consortium checkpoint," announced the ship's AI in its monotone voice. "Security protocols indicate full biometric scanning." Riker cursed under his breath. The checkpoint hadn't been there 2 cycles ago. The Consortium was tightening its grip on the outer systems, especially after what happened on Proxus 9. He eyed the armor again, understanding the choice before him. Wear it and fight, or be captured and face whatever creative execution the Consortium had devised for humans who killed one of the Meridian elite. The memory of Proxus 9 burned fresh in his mind. He had been there on a routine diplomatic mission, Earth's attempt to gain entry into the Consortium, despite centuries of being deemed evolutionarily insufficient. The attack had come without warning, Meridian warships descending on the colony. Their reasons still unclear to Riker. He had been separated from his team when he encountered Cluvex, massive even for a Meridian, cornering a group of human colonists. What happened next defied explanation. Riker, armed with only a standard-issue plasma pistol, had somehow managed to wound the Warmaster. In the ensuing chaos, both of them had fallen into a mining shaft. When Riker regained consciousness, Cluvex was dead, his neck broken at an impossible angle, and the legendary armor remained intact. Now the checkpoint loomed ahead, and with it, certain capture. The Meridians claimed their battle armor bonded permanently with its wearer's nervous system, which meant no one had ever worn another's armor. The suit before him represented both salvation and sacrilege. "Scan commencing in 30 seconds, the AI announced. Riker moved to the armor, his hand hovering over its chest plate. The surface rippled at his proximity, as if acknowledging him. That wasn't supposed to happen. The legends claimed that Meridian armor rejected all non-Meridian contact, burning any foreign flesh that dared touch it. Yet as his fingers made contact, the armor shivered and began to unfold, plates separating. To create an opening, an invitation, scan commencing in 15 seconds. With no other choice, Riker stepped into the armor. He expected pain, resistance, something to indicate he was violating a sacred boundary. Instead, the suit closed around him with an almost eager precision, connecting seamlessly to his form. Information flooded his consciousness, weapons systems, tactical overlays, strength enhancements beyond human possibility. Most disturbing of all was the sense of recognition he felt from the armor itself, as if it had been waiting for him specifically. Scan commencing in 5 seconds. As the checkpoint sensors washed over his ship, Riker felt the armor tighten around him, somehow cloaking his human biosignature. The checkpoint's confirmation tone sounded moments later. Vessel classified as automated cargo transport. Proceed. Riker exhaled, the armor mimicking his respiratory rhythm. Something was terribly wrong, or terribly right. The armor hadn't just accepted him, it had protected him. And now, with the combined knowledge of the galaxy's most fearsome warrior flowing through his neural pathways, Riker began to understand the true power he had stumbled upon, and why the entire universe would soon be hunting him for it. Riker's stolen vessel slipped through the vast emptiness of the Cygnus Void, a region of space avoided by most travelers due to its unusual electromagnetic properties that played havoc with navigation systems. For the armor-enhanced human, however, it provided perfect cover. 3 weeks had passed since his escape, and in that time, Riker had begun to understand that the Meridian battle armor was far more than advanced technology. It was alive in ways that defied conventional classification. It learned from him even as he learned from it, their nervous systems intertwined in a symbiotic relationship that grew stronger each day. They lied about everything, Riker muttered to himself, reviewing the armor's historical archives through the neural interface. The Meridians hadn't developed the armor. They had discovered it, an ancient relic of the long-extinct precursor civilization. Moreover, despite propaganda suggesting otherwise, most Meridians were biologically incompatible with the armor. High War Master Kluvex had been one of only 7 Meridians in their recorded history able to bond with a suit. Yet the armor had accepted Riker instantly, a human, supposedly an evolutionarily insufficient species. The implications were staggering. A proximity alert jarred him from his contemplation. A consortium patrol vessel, significantly larger than his ship, had entered the void. It shouldn't have been able to track him here unless they're using precursor tech. The armor's interface informed him, the thought materializing in his mind as if it were his own. Detected axiom energy signatures consistent with tracking capabilities beyond current consortium standards. The reality of his situation crystallized. The Meridians weren't just hunting him for killing Kluvex or stealing the armor. They feared what his compatibility with the suit might reveal about their carefully constructed galactic hierarchy. The patrol vessel launched 2 smaller pursuit craft. Riker's stolen ship was no match for them, but the armor had other ideas. It guided his hands to a previously invisible panel, revealing an emergency pod of unusual design. Emergency escape system integrated with armor capabilities, the interface explained. Optimal survival probability. As the pursuit craft closed in, Riker made his decision. He sealed himself in the pod and ejected just as his ship exploded. A self-destruct sequence initiated by the armor itself. The shockwave propelled the pod deeper into the void, its cloaking technology rendering it invisible to conventional sensors. The pod carried him to an uncharted planetoid at the void's edge. As he emerged onto its barren surface, the armor began to change, adding layers and configurations he hadn't seen before. A full helmet materialized around his head, and the neural interface deepened, showing him the planetoid's composition, atmosphere and, most surprisingly, signs of ancient habitation. This was a precursor outpost, Riker realized. The armor confirming his suspicion. Following the armor's guidance, he discovered an entrance hidden beneath millennia of erosion. Inside, preserved by technologies beyond his comprehension, lay a chamber filled with artifacts and data repositories. As he approached the central terminal, the armor interfaced with it automatically, downloading vast quantities of information. The truth hit Riker like a physical blow, nearly bringing him to his knees. The precursors hadn't gone extinct. They had been systematically eliminated by early Meridian society after the discovery of their technology, but not before they had created the armor, specifically designed to bond with species possessing certain genetic markers. Humans carried those markers. The Meridians did not. The compatible shall inherit, the armor interface translated from a precursor inscription on the wall. When the time cycle completes, restoration begins. A message appeared in Riker's visual field. Full integration now possible. The armor was offering him something beyond the current symbiotic relationship, a complete merger of human and precursor technology. As consortium forces would undoubtedly be scouring the void for him, Riker made his choice. He accepted the integration, felt the armor meld more deeply with his body and mind. Power unlike anything he had ever experienced coursed through him, along with knowledge that no human was meant to possess. He understood now why the universe wanted him dead. It wasn't revenge. They sought It was prevention of what he was becoming. The desert moon of Tyrannus IV burned under 3 suns, its surface temperatures reaching levels lethal to most species. For Riker, however, the environment proved merely an inconvenience. The armor regulated his body temperature and synthesized water from the arid atmosphere, allowing him to travel freely across the scorched landscape. 2 months had passed since his transformation at the precursor outpost. 2 months of being hunted by increasingly desperate forces. The Meridian High Command had initially sent elite strike teams after him, all of which had failed to return. Now they employed mercenary groups of various species, promising riches beyond imagination for his capture or confirmation of his death. What they didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that Riker was no longer simply human. The integration with the armor had rewritten portions of his genetic code, awakening dormant sequences that the precursors had apparently seeded in humanity's ancestors millennia ago. He was becoming something new, something that existed in the narrow space between organic and synthetic life. Riker crested a massive dune and spotted his destination, an ancient trading post, now mostly abandoned except for those specifically looking to avoid attention. Perfect for gathering intelligence and supplies before his next move. The armor reconfigured as he approached the settlement, its exterior shifting to resemble standard consortium environmental gear rather than the distinctive Meridian battle suit. While the disguise wouldn't fool sophisticated scanners, it was sufficient for the technological level present in this backwater. The trading post consisted of a dozen structures built into a natural rock formation, providing some relief from the relentless heat. Riker entered the central building, a combination bar, supply depot, and information exchange. Various species occupied the dimly lit space, most looking as though they had reasons to avoid official attention. "Information," he said to the four-armed Quellan tending bar, sliding across a chip containing precious metals. "Looking for transport off-world, discreet." The Quellan's upper eyes narrowed while the lower pair focused on the payment. "Discreet costs more than that these days, especially with the bounty notices flooding every frequency." Riker added another chip. "I'm merely a surveyor whose contract ended poorly." "Sure you are," the bartender replied, but accepted the payment. "Dock 7, vessel called the Tarnished Oath, Captain Morville. Don't mention my name." Riker nodded, and turned to leave when the armor's threat detection system flared to life. 3 figures had entered, their biometric signatures identifying them as Orvax hunters, a species known for their tracking abilities and complete lack of ethical boundaries. They were scanning the room systematically before Riker could slip. Out the back, the lead hunter's gaze locked onto him. Recognition flashed across its elongated features, followed by predatory anticipation. The hunters spread out, blocking potential escape routes. "The bounty said nothing about condition," the lead hunter called out in heavily accented common. "Surrender and keep your limbs." The other patrons quickly vacated the area, recognizing the imminent violence. Riker assessed his options through the armor's tactical systems. Fighting here would create witnesses and evidence. Running would only confirm his identity. Instead, he did something unexpected. He laughed. "You've mistaken me for someone important," he said, letting the armor subtly modulate his voice. "I'm nobody." "Scan matches partial profile," the hunter insisted, drawing a disruptor weapon. "Remove outer gear for confirmation." Riker sighed theatrically. "If you insist." The armor responded to his intention instantaneously. Rather than revealing itself, it extended a microfilament network throughout the room, interfacing with the building's primitive electrical system. In the split second before the hunters could react, every light source in the establishment exploded simultaneously, plunging the space into darkness. Enhanced by the armor's sensory systems, Riker moved with precision through the chaos, neutralizing each hunter with targeted strikes to neurological centers. When the emergency lighting activated 30 seconds later, Riker was gone, and the hunters lay unconscious. Outside, he moved quickly toward Dock 7, knowing their presence meant others would follow. The armor had downloaded the planetary data during the brief physical contact with the hunters, including information about a consortium destroyer in orbit, specifically equipped with precursor-derived tracking technology. They were getting closer, deploying more resources. The Meridians had evidently shared some of their secrets with the consortium in their desperation to find him. As he approached the ship that would carry him off-world, Riker felt the armor processing new information gleaned from the hunters. Equipment. A pattern was emerging. The pursuit wasn't just about retrieving stolen property or avenging Kluvex anymore. Something else was driving the unprecedented cooperation between normally competitive species. They were afraid, not just of him, but of what his existence represented. The armor had accessed fragmentary communications, indicating a prophecy within ancient Meridian texts, speaking of a time when the false inheritors shall be displaced by the true children of the Makers. Riker boarded the ship, knowing his journey was approaching a critical juncture. He wasn't just fighting for survival anymore, he was becoming the catalyst for a galactic reckoning. The tarnished Oath dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Helios system, a region notorious for harboring anti-consortium rebels and political exiles. Captain Morval, a gruff reptilian Daxian with scarred scales and a prosthetic eye, had asked remarkably few questions after Riker had demonstrated his ability to pay. Now, as they approached the system's central trading hub, Riker prepared for the next phase of his increasingly complex plan. "We dock in 20 minutes, Morvel announced over the ship's intercom. "Maintain low profile, or find yourself ejected into vacuum. Captain's policy." Riker acknowledged the warning with a terse nod to the camera. The armor had spent their 3-week journey analyzing the data accumulated from various encounters, and the picture it painted was disturbing. The Meridians hadn't merely discovered precursor technology and claimed it as their own. They had systematically eradicated all evidence of the precursor's true intentions. Most significant was what the armor now referred to as the Reclamation Protocol. Apparently, the precursors had recognized they were facing extinction and embedded a technological failsafe within certain species they had genetically modified, humans among them. The armor wasn't simply a weapon or tool. It was a key designed to activate these dormant genetic sequences when worn by a compatible host. Riker was the first successful activation in over 10,000 years. As the tarnished Oath docked at Helios Prime, Riker felt the armor tense around him, a sensation he'd come to recognize as heightened threat detection. Something was wrong. The docking bay appeared normal, but the armor's advanced sensors detected subtle anomalies. Positioned snipers, energy signatures of cloaked operatives, the electromagnetic distortion of active containment fields. An ambush. "Captain," Riker called through the intercom. "We've been compromised. Abort docking procedure." Silence responded, then Morvel's voice, unnaturally flat. "Docking procedure complete. Prepare for boarding." They'd gotten to Morvel, likely threatened or bribed him during their last resupply stop. Riker cursed silently as the ship's systems began shutting down one by one, overridden by external commands. The armor displayed options, calculating success probabilities for various escape scenarios. None exceeded 23%, until it proposed something radical: full manifestation of precursor capabilities previously locked to prevent detection. Warning: energy signature will be detectable across 3 sectors. Estimated consortium response time, 17 minutes. Riker hesitated. Once he revealed the armor's true power, there would be no more hiding, no return to his former life, but the alternative was capture or death. "Do it," he authorized. The transformation was immediate and profound. The armor shifted from its disguised state to its true form, an elegant, iridescent exoskeleton that seemed to exist partially in dimensions beyond normal perception. Energy coursed through pathways that hadn't been visible before, and Riker's consciousness expanded to encompass systems and capabilities previously dormant. When the consortium strike team breached the airlock, they encountered not a desperate fugitive, but something from beyond their understanding. Riker moved through their ranks like a phantom, their weapons proving ineffective against the armor's advanced defense systems. He wasn't trying to kill them, merely to escape. But the difference in technological sophistication made the encounter hopelessly one-sided. Within minutes, he had neutralized the ambush forces and commandeered a sleek consortium interceptor. As he broke atmosphere, the armor interfaced with the ship's systems, enhancing its capabilities and plotting a course to coordinates previously unknown to him. The reclamation protocol requires activation at the central nexus, the armor informed him. Location coordinates designated Sanctuary by precursor records. The interceptor accelerated beyond its designed parameters, the armor somehow reinforcing its structural integrity to withstand the strain. Behind him, consortium vessels scrambled in pursuit, but too late. The interceptor vanished into a form of faster-than-light travel that hadn't been seen in the galaxy for millennia. During the journey, the armor shared more of the truth with Riker. The precursors hadn't been conquerors like the Meridians portrayed them. They had been guardians, cultivating and protecting thousands of species across the galaxy. When they detected the aggressive expansion of early Meridian civilization and its predilection for domination rather than cooperation, they recognized a threat to their grand design, unable to directly intervene due to their own non-interference. Protocols. They instead created the armor and similar technologies, designed to activate only when worn by genetically compatible species who had reached a certain level of development. Species they had subtly guided through selective genetic manipulation eons ago. Humans were not the evolutionary inferiors the consortium labeled them. They were inheritors, intended to help restore balance to a galaxy that had fallen under the sway of species never meant to wield such power. As the interceptor approached Sanctuary, a planet hidden within a fold of space-time that rendered it invisible to conventional detection, Riker understood that he had become more than a fugitive. He was the first of what the precursors had called awakened, and his actions would determine whether humanity's true role in the galactic order would be realized or forever suppressed. The weight of this revelation settled upon him as the mysterious planet grew larger in his view screen, its surface covered with structures that defied conventional architecture, glowing with the same iridescent energy that now coursed through his armor. Sanctuary awaited, and with it, the power to reshape the galaxy. Sanctuary pulsed with ancient energy as Riker descended through its hidden atmosphere. The planet was a perfect blend of technology and nature, with crystalline spires rising from verdant forests and oceans of what appeared to be liquid information, data made manifest in physical form. The armor guided his ship to a landing platform adjacent to a massive structure that dominated the horizon, the Nexus. As Riker stepped onto Sanctuary's surface, he felt the planet recognize him, systems dormant for millennia awakening to his presence. The air itself seemed to vibrate with anticipation. "You are the first to return," came a voice, not through sound, but directly into his consciousness. A figure materialized before him, holographic, yet somehow more substantial than any projection he had ever encountered. It wore an appearance similar to a human, but with subtle differences that marked it as distinctly other. "I am Essence, caretaker of Sanctuary and final repository of precursor consciousness." "Why me?" Riker asked, the question that had plagued him since his impossible defeat of Kluvex. Out of all humans, all compatible species, why was I chosen? You were not chosen, Essence replied. You chose. When confronted with a superior force threatening innocence, you acted without calculation of personal benefit. The armor responds to ethical alignment as much as genetic compatibility. Many have touched precursor artifacts over the millennia. Few have activated them. The explanation stunned Riker. His actions on Proxus 9 hadn't been heroic calculation, just instinct and desperation. The Reclamation Protocol has awaited activation for 10,000 years, Essence continued. Now that you have brought the Prime Armor to Sanctuary, we can proceed. Proceed with what exactly? Riker asked, suddenly cautious. Unlimited power, regardless of intention, rarely led to positive outcomes. His military history studies had taught him that much. Balance restoration, Essence replied simply. The Myridians have dominated through technological superiority, gained by destroying rather than understanding precursor legacy. Other compatible species have been systematically suppressed, kept from their rightful development. The protocol does not seek revenge, it seeks correction. Essence guided Riker to the heart of the Nexus, a chamber that seemed to exist simultaneously in physical space and somewhere else entirely. At its center floated a crystalline structure that pulsed, in perfect synchronization with the armor's energy signature. This is the key matrix, Essence explained. When merged with your armor, it will transmit activation signals to dormant precursor technology throughout the galaxy. Technology embedded within the genetic code of compatible species, including humans. They will not become as you are, but they will awaken to their full potential, resistant to Myridian suppression technologies. The implications were staggering, not the overthrow of galactic civilization, but a fundamental rebalancing of power. Humans and other compatible species would suddenly find themselves technological equals to the Myridians, able to claim their place in the consortium not as supplicants, but as peers. As Riker prepared to complete the protocol, alert signals flashed through his armor's interface. The consortium had found sanctuary, impossible unless they followed the activation signature, Riker realized. They've developed systems to track precursor energy patterns. Indeed, a massive Myridian dreadnought had somehow penetrated Sanctuary's cloaking field, accompanied by vessels from a dozen consortium species. Their combined firepower could potentially destroy the planet, and with it, the last repository of precursor knowledge. We have minutes before they deploy planet killers, the armor calculated. The protocol must be completed now. But Riker hesitated, a realization dawning. If I activate this, it changes everything. Billions will be affected without their consent. Wars could break out as power structures shift. Change always carries risk, Essence acknowledged. But continuation of the current path ensures permanent imbalance. The choice, however, must be yours. The precursors believed in agency above all. As the first bombardment struck Sanctuary's outer defenses, making the entire structure shudder, Riker made his decision. He stepped toward the key matrix, but not to activate it as designed. Instead, he interfaced the armor with the ancient system and began rewriting the protocol itself. "What are you doing?" Essence asked, genuine surprise in its ageless voice. "Changing the terms," Riker replied, his consciousness merging with the precursor systems, guiding them toward a new configuration. "Not awakening all at once. That's too destructive, too much like the domination we're fighting against. Instead, offering choice. Working with impossible speed enhanced by the armor, Riker reprogrammed the protocol. When he finally activated the key matrix, the energy pulse that emanated from Sanctuary was different from what had been intended, subtler, yet somehow more profound. As the consortium fleet prepared to deliver a killing blow to the planet, their weapon systems suddenly went offline. On their command decks, holographic projections of essence appeared, explaining what had transpired and offering each species a choice. Continue the path of dominance and suppression, or accept a new equilibrium where technological advancement would be shared rather than hoarded. To demonstrate the sincerity of the offer, the modified protocol unlocked certain precursor technologies across all consortium vessels, technologies that enabled more efficient energy production, better medical capabilities, and enhanced propulsion systems, a taste of what cooperation could bring. "You've changed everything," Essence said to Riker as they watched the consortium fleet's confusion turn to cautious communication. "This was not the precursor's design." "Maybe that's why they failed," Riker replied. "They tried to engineer an outcome rather than trust in the capacity of sentient beings to choose better when given the opportunity. I'm betting that most will choose cooperation over conflict when the playing field is leveled." In the days that followed, the gamble proved largely correct. While some Meridian hardliners insisted on maintaining the old order, the revelation of their millennia of deception weakened their position. Other consortium species, seeing the benefits of precursor technology freely shared, began questioning the hierarchy that had defined galactic civilization. Riker remained on Sanctuary, working with Essence to establish it as a neutral center for technological exchange and diplomatic relations between all species, Meridian included. The armor became not a weapon of war, but a symbol of transformation, its power used to defend the new order rather than dominate it. 6 months after his arrival on Sanctuary, as representatives from 27 species gathered for the first Galactic Concord Summit, Riker stood on a balcony overlooking the proceedings. The armor had become almost a part of him now, less distinct from his body and more an extension of his evolved self. "They're calling you the Inheritor now," came a voice beside him. Admiral Telvari, once his pursuer as head of the consortium fleet, now a reluctant ally in the new political reality. "Religious movements are sprouting up across 17 systems." "Not what I intended," Riker said with a frown. "Rarely is," Telvari replied, "but better religions of hope than empires of fear, wouldn't you say?" Below them, human diplomats conversed as equals with Meridians, something unimaginable a year earlier. Similar scenes played out across the chamber as species previously subjugated found their voices in the new order. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even close. Old hatreds and suspicions remained. The Meridian hardliners had retreated to their core, our systems, building new weapons. Some human factions demanded retribution rather than reconciliation, but it was a beginning, one founded not on revenge for past wrongs, but on the possibility of a different future. The universe had sought revenge against the human who wore alien battle armor, only to find itself transformed by his refusal to perpetuate cycles of domination. As Riker watched the proceedings, the armor hummed with satisfaction, its consciousness now permanently intertwined with his own. Not human, not precursor, but something new, a bridge between past and future, between revenge and redemption. The reckoning had come, but not as anyone had expected, and that, perhaps, was the greatest victory of all.